Soccer is back. You guys, we made it. We're just 5 days away from the kickoff of the MLS is Back tournament live from Walt Disney World with Orlando City and Inter Miami kicking things off Wednesday at 8 p.m. And more importantly than that, we're just 5 days away from DC United Soccer live again, 8 p.m. on Friday. Toronto FC taking on DC United. Guys, I can't wait. I can't believe we're here.
I also cannot believe we're here. It's mind-blowing. Like, this is a pre-game show, a pre-DC United looking forward. I obviously don't have words. I'm just so excited.
Sam's so excited the words won't come to her.
It's not making any sense.
And I'll pipe up and admit, last week we experimented with me on the board, so if things are a little bit rough, you know who to blame. But I just switched on to the video, and we got a new setup, guys.
Yeah, for better or worse, you got to look at our ugly faces. So, if you're listening on the
Speak
podcast,
for yourself,
you're
friend.
probably happy. But if you're joining us live, you can see us now. And that's a thing.
Hey, we're going big new things. We got a big new tournament. We've got big things coming for DC United in the next, 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have another trophy to look at.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting couple of weeks. And as more and more teams enter the bubble, it does seem like that there's a little bit of anxiety, unfortunately. But DC United's original travel plan was to go down on Friday. They made it. They checked into the bubble. They had their first session yesterday. And coming up at the top of the hour here, if you're joining us live, Rory Molleda and Sam Legg will be joining us from inside the bubble. And we'll get our first insight into how things are going down in Orlando for the Black and Red. But, guys, from what you've been hearing so far, it sounds like the three of you are just as excited as I am to get this thing underway. But what are your thoughts as we're officially in a game week again for the first time since March?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because there is difficulty for some teams to be getting in the bubble. And I think that there are some questions still floating around about, if the league hopped into this too soon. Like, obviously the NWSL is already playing and, it took the league forever to get here, it felt like. But at the end of the day, I think we all want players to still be safe. And I think that there are some questions about that. So it'll be interesting to see, how those unravel, because there are teams, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but for example, Toronto, they have had to push back their date to travel 2 days in a row now because of positive tests and potential symptoms. So I think there's the soccer part of it, and then there's also the human part of it. And it's just really interesting to watch how that's coming.
Yeah, I think as a fan, I've got nothing but excitement to see the players back on the field, actually see live U.S. men's soccer happening. I am overjoyed to have that coming on. But from a human level, yes, you do look at some of the scary elements of what's going on there, and you do hope that everything goes right. It seems like they've been doing lots of testing. They've been trying to follow all the steps they've laid out in advance, and there's always going to be risks involved with anything like this, particularly in the time that we're in. So I think we hope for the best, and as fans, we look forward to seeing what comes on the field.
Yeah, and that's been the reactions on Twitter. They're all over the place. People are excited, but people are also freaking out every time one player tests positive. I know it's a big deal to have coronavirus, but I think I saw some statistics that in the bubble or in MLS, it's a literally less than 1% rate, and in America right now, it's way above that.
Yeah.
So I don't think the bubble. I think it's important to note that the bubble wasn't designed to keep everything out. It's just designed to keep most of it out. And so I think we will have this tournament. I don't think it's a bad thing that they're moving forward, and I'm really pumped for it.
Yeah, and Stephen Goff had a great quote the other day that he got someone close to the situation, of course, anonymously saying the biggest issue by far is getting teams safely into the bubble.
Yeah, I saw
it's
that
a bit of a waiting game, right? And the incubation period obviously makes this tough, and we've talked for months about sort of what that looks like. But the feeling there is that the protocol's strong. It's just you got to get people checked into Orlando, you deal with the positives, you isolate them, and then you move from there. And it's true, just as we go live here, Paul Tenorio reporting with Sam Stejskal, both from The Athletic, that Nashville SC has had 5 players test positive since they arrived in Orlando just on Friday. Today's Sunday as we're going live. And so 1 tested positive upon arrival and 4 more since. They haven't trained since Tuesday. And of course, they've got a game on Wednesday night against the Fire. So we've already seen, Toronto's pushed back their flight into town. I think the Red Bulls pushed back a couple days. They're arriving today, I believe. And we've seen the FC Dallas opener is going to be pushed back to a date, to be determined. But Joshua, I kind of agree with you. It's like, we'll get this thing moving. It'll all be okay. But, some of these initial first round games might get pushed back a little bit. We might have to be a little flexible, but it's fascinating getting teams into the bubble.
I mean, it's fascinating hearing what's happening within the bubble as well. A lot of the players are not, a lot of them, granted, were not super happy to be going into the bubble. They didn't want to be away from their homes and families for that long, but now that they're there, there are a lot of interesting photographs and complaints going around. What do y'all think of that?
A lot of comparisons to Fire Festival, but I think that's just players being dramatic. The whole sandwich gate thing that blew up, it was literally like, while you're being held, while we check your test, like, that's what you have to eat. And then they have 6 restaurants waiting for them once they get inside.
I'll tell you on that, though, our Walt Disney World beat writer, Abby, was reporting earlier today to me that the sandwich gate might actually be fake. There were some people went undercover and were comparing the photos of that. And they're like, hold on, that's not from the Swan or the Dolphin. So I don't know what hotel these people are in, but that doesn't fit. So it's interesting. I don't know.
It's like Joshua said, it's not like they were eating it's not like that was every single meal. Like, we've all had a boxed lunch before. And I know that these players are used to a much higher standard, but I thought it was a little bit silly that they were all complaining that they were eating a sandwich, essentially. Like,
I think the jarring point was the price point, right? $65 was shocking for that. You could have delivered me anything, and $65 would have been too much.
The teams apparently covered that, but I don't think it was the Griffin Yaos or Kevin Paredes that we've come to know that were complaining about the sandwiches. It was the guys that forgot the long travel days, or maybe never even got to that point because they were so good. I don't know.
For me, after 3 or 4 months of having to cook for yourself in your house, just having something that somebody else has made for you, that's good enough for me. But go figure.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. I'm sure that the players will not stay quiet about the conditions as they remain in Orlando. So.
Yeah, before we dig into really the deep preview of the upcoming game here, we do need to talk about the other team in town, the Washington Spirit, NWSL. Sam, I beat you this week to it. I know Sam likes to throw into the show notes somewhere, like, we should talk about this and hide it from me.
We should talk about it.
I beat you this week. Spirit opening up with a big 2-1 win over Chicago and a frustrating 2-0 loss to North Carolina, but North Carolina's a good team. Yeah. I don't think that there's a whole lot to be terribly upset about. But tonight it's a big game for the Spirit. They take on Portland at 10 p.m., which is far too late. But I guess we got to get used to those games for what's coming forth. But what are you guys' thoughts about how the Spirit have been doing so far in the Challenge Cup?
I think their win was convincing, and then their game against North Carolina. I've watched North Carolina's game earlier today. It was a rematch of the 2019 final between them and the Red Stars. And they just look inevitable. I watch North Carolina, and everywhere they're good. So, I think they even rested Dunn today, which I don't know. So, I think they came into this tournament as a team to beat, the Courage, that is. So I can't take much stock into the Spirit's loss against them. It'll be interesting how they come out tonight. If they come out and win, then I think all signs point to another rematch of them against the Courage. But it's been good quality soccer so far. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see because I think they were saying I think it was going into the North Carolina game, they were saying that a lot of the national team players are on minute restrictions. And it's not, I don't think it's a per game thing. I think it's like an overall thing. So they were talking about, what that's going to mean for Rose Lavelle and Washington Spirit. And obviously, she played a lot of that North Carolina game. We were trying to win that. But, as you go forward, it's more must-win situations. So at what point do you rest her?
A minute limit for just to keep them injured? There's nothing coming up, right? Or am I just missing something huge? Are they just worried about them just overstressing in a very short amount of time?
I think everyone has been. It's a threat. That's why you're seeing these water breaks. That's why you're seeing these 5 subs. It's a threat to everyone, really. Half the team stayed at home, so I don't feel like they're going to really, really be too stretched too thin. But I'm just
are
saying.
still upset about that.
Yeah.
I'm a little peeved, but I'm upset at the minute restriction for Rose Lavelle. She's magic on the ball. I think she's probably the greatest player in American soccer right now. I mean, Pulisic is balling out for Chelsea right now, but watch Rose Lavelle. She's like the Messis of the world. She just looks different on the ball. She can do whatever she wants. It's crazy. Tune in.
And if you look at the standings right now for the results that you've seen so far, you've only got the Courage with their 3 wins. Every other team has had at least draws. You know, the Spirit's sitting in 4th right now with the 1 win. That's solid positioning. And going into the tournament, that's what you'd hope for.
It's 4th tied. Oh, you're right. It is 4th. Sorry, the other 2 teams have 2
But
draws.
does it matter? It just matters what your seed is. Everyone makes the playoffs because Pride stayed, well, shameful.
Yeah,
because the Pride happened.
It used to be as simple as don't come in last, but yeah, now it's just a seeding exercise.
So if there is a minute restriction, I wouldn't play Rose Lavelle at all. Just go as hard as you can in this inevitable playoff games that you're going to have. It'll be interesting. That's the way I've approached the game so far. I like I said, I'm not taking too much stock into the Courage Spirit game, but it will be interesting when it comes crunch time for these teams to go when it doesn't matter, what minute restrictions you're on, and this is lose or go home. I think we'll see some really, really good games. I turned off Liverpool today to watch the NWSL game. That's how boring the Liverpool game was and how good the NWSL game was.
That was a good choice.
And it does still seem as if the Villa are going to be relegated, and we should transition. That's a good transition into world soccer here. Look, guys, for long-time listeners of the show, I'm a Leicester City fan. Jamie Vardy's one of my favorite players of all time, and we got to shout him out. His 100th Premier League goal and 101st yesterday. As a matter of fact, if you're going to watch him, you could probably skip the 100th because it was probably his easiest goal in his career. The 101st was much more impressive, and it was exciting to see Leicester City get somewhat closer to back on track. But I think all 3 of your teams at this point are more exciting to watch than Leicester City.
Let's not take away from Vardy's. I'm glad we have video because now people can see me walk off when you go on these little Leicester City rants. But the 100th goal was a striker's goal. He was in position to receive the square and put it away nicely. The 101 was classic Vardy running against a defense on a counter. It was really nice. And I'm really sad that I know all this because I watch almost every single Leicester City game.
I'm so proud of you.
They're really not fun to watch. Wolves, not fun to watch this week. They tried something different. Nuno, the manager for Wolves, has been masterclass since coming back. He had 9 points through 3 games, and then he tried something really weird this week against Arsenal, which are a big team. But Wolves have a bunch of games against mid-table teams. It'll be interesting to see where those Champions League spots end up. It's a tight race, and our guy Pulisic is part of that with Chelsea, and he's playing, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Rose, he's playing next level. Like, he's the best player for Chelsea right now. It's crazy.
It's kind of a weird feeling, obviously, with the season being delayed and not resuming until June, but we've got the same kind of feeling that we do normally watching the season at this point. You've got, 5-6 games left. You pretty much know which teams are in contention for Champions League. You pretty much know which teams are going to be safe, and you know that there are a couple teams that are going down. So it's almost a weird new normal that, hey, this is soccer back to what we expect from it.
Speaking of what we expect from it, it has been, as someone who's new to English soccer, it's been very weird for me to watch this whole lineup thing that's happening for Liverpool.
The Guard of Honor
what?
is just savage.
That's the silliest thing I've ever seen.
It's something that I obviously learned about the year Leicester won the title, but it's very uniquely English. You don't see it really in any other leagues, even leagues that play just like the rest of Europe, where there's no additional, there's no there's no playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And they don't really do it in other leagues. It's uniquely English, and I was actually surprised to see that they did it under these current pandemic conditions. But the socially distant Guard of Honor has been interesting to see as well.
I don't know. That feels like.
I would hate that as a fan. If Red Bull won the cup and DC United had to sit out there and clap for them, it would just be gross.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's just
I understand the prestige and it's literally honor, but
I kind of don't though, because it's like it's not like the teams at the end of your season mean anything, right? It's not like those are like the hardest teams or whatever. Obviously, like I say obviously, I don't actually know. I feel like Liverpool's won it like pretty early this year, but like the teams, they didn't do anything. Like it's not their fault. Like why are they the ones who have to stand there and clap? It feels like a little insulting, and they don't deserve it. It's just weird.
So I think, I don't know, I guess I have a slightly different take on it. I think, I mean, especially what Liverpool did this year was impressive. I mean, they were the best team by a mile. But I do think it was a bit interesting. The first Guard of Honor was against Man City, who will probably finish second. They've won the last 2 titles. And, Man City gave them the Guard of Honor, and it was great. And then they went on to blast them in the game. And I think there's almost a little bit of motivation for the team that, is playing against the champions, because it's like, all right, this is nice. We'll celebrate you getting in the game. And Man City kicked their ass in that game. There's no way around it. I mean, Liverpool did not look like champions midweek.
Yeah, and that's a good point you make. If you don't want the team to experience the Guard of Honor for the 6, 7, 8 games that they get to do it for, do better. Keep it closer.
But you're talking about the team that hasn't played them yet. So like, and then this is my first full season watching, really like caring about Premier League soccer, and it's just sad watching Man City crush Liverpool the other day, and then Man City came out so flat today and lost to Southampton. I appreciate MLS playoffs for the craziness they are. I have always done that, but I appreciate them more now that I've seen this wacky end of season time in the EPL, especially this year.
I am glad that we don't have to do a Guard of Honor for the Supporters' Shield winners every time they play a game down the stretch. I'll admit that.
Americans wouldn't stand for that. Like, are you kidding me?
I think we got to everyone's team except for Black's, and he has the most to talk about today. You talked about your trials and tribulations.
I didn't talk about Leeds, though, and they won. I'm sorry, your 2 teams lost. Leeds came out balling. Like, that was rude.
For the once. But Newcastle,
where are the Wolves?
Very entertaining game.
Yeah.
I'll let Black speak to it.
Newcastle, a great 2-2 draw. I think going into it, you might hope for a win out of the game against a bottom half of the table team, but you've got to take, coming back twice from being a goal down, goals from Shelby and Almiron, former MLS product. They're very comfortably, staying up this year, which, there have been some years that have been a little bit different there. So to have Newcastle be safe, a lot of questions about what their future is going to look like. Who knows if this ownership change is going to go through. Lots of drama going on there, but we'll have to keep an eye on it and hope that we get a good result soon.
Well, you guys talked about it a little bit earlier, but I mean, yesterday for me was total relaxing day. Watched more soccer than it feels like I've done in a long time, which was great. And, talking about Pulisic and Chelsea, first of all, as part of the Champions League race, I think I had a tweet about it, but it's funny to watch. I mean, Pulisic has earned some well-earned penalties over the past couple of games, but I have to laugh because there's just no way he gets some of those calls for the Stars and Stripes in CONCACAF. It's not happening. And so I hope that he doesn't, come back to when we have these international games down the road and thinking like, oh, I'll just win some of these penalties again like I am in England. Like it doesn't work like that every year. I don't know if you guys had a similar reaction. Yesterday's was well earned, but I think the midweek game, I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah, he just takes fouls the whole game. That's what I've noticed. Is they no one. Oh man, I don't want to say no one in the EPL, but no one that I've seen him dribble against has been able to stay with him, and then he gets fouled. People draw yellows on him every time. It's crazy. But like you said, John, is that going to be a viable strategy in CONCACAF? No, because he's probably going to get his leg broke before he gets a penalty.
Right.
Well, maybe not the penalty, but maybe he can, draw those cards. I think that in CONCACAF, I mean, it's going to be a lot of the same. It's not like there are like a bunch of players over here that are going to be able to match his skill level. So I think, he's still going to be able to like ball out and potentially he's just drawing the yellow cards. And then, I mean, you always want to have the defense of the other team sitting on a couple yellows. So.
And who knows, the referees watch the games too. They watch international soccer just as much. They're fans of the game as well. Who knows if having a guy like Pulisic raising his profile, being a force in the EPL the way that he's showing himself to be, if that's going to translate coming back to games domestically. Yeah, you probably don't want him seeking quite as much contact in a game in a less than ideal field conditions and that you really need to win. But I think we might be pleasantly surprised when we do get to see national team soccer again.
The one thing I actually want to pose this to you guys. Do you think the Christian Pulisic number 10 experiment for Berhalter is over now? He's a left winger through and through, or do you continue to play him centrally to get him more on the ball?
I think Berhalter is going to do whatever he wants to do. Like, I think that he has like stood up to all of U.S. soccer and been like, you need to trust my process and you need to trust what I'm doing. I'm not saying that I agree with him. I'm just saying that like I don't see him being like, oh, I'm just going to change around the entire team for this one player. That doesn't feel like Berhalter.
I don't know. I'm not changing the scheme, but Pulisic was played as a 10 for the U.S. men's national team. He is a left winger. He's a world-class left winger. His performance with Chelsea have shown that. You think Berhalter still plays him centrally?
I could see it.
If we don't win and Pulisic
I think
plays
it comes down to who do you put at 10.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
like I think
better 10,
that's how he's building his
team.
team. Exactly. I could see him like a couple games, maybe like you sub out like the left wing and you push Christian over and you put someone else in the middle. Like I could see like him being a little bit flexible in it, but I mean, Christian's like the best player on the men's national team right now, and typically that's the guy you have in the middle controlling play and like directing where everyone's going. So I don't necessarily see Berhalter, and again, just the way that he's talked to media and the way that he's defended his plans, I don't see him like making a huge overhaul change.
Well, and that's one of the problems that we've heard about U.S. soccer for an extended period of time now, is that the best players when they're youth play in that central attacking midfield or in a central midfield role, because that's how you get them most on the ball, most involved in the games. That's how they play all the way through their club soccer, playing through high school. And then when they come out, perhaps there's a better spot for them, but they don't necessarily transition as well. Now, obviously, Pulisic's come through a European system, so kind of a slightly different model there. But I think the American mindset on it's still going to be, hey, this is our best player, let's see how we can get him as much involved as possible, and that's probably in the middle of the field. I think you're right that if we get a way to replace him in the midfield and let him move out to the wing, then you can have success there. But at the end of the day, when it comes to crunch time, I think you're going to have to go with, hey, this is how I get my best people on the field and see what happens, particularly with the limited amount of time the national team has to train with each other. At some point, you have to roll on the talent.
And it blanks on me who, I know he's from FC Dallas. The kid from FC Dallas is potentially a number 10, but I would hate to see him out of position after watching him dominate in that so far. It's really sad that we haven't been able to see any of the other guys. Josh Sargent was kind of just mediocre for Wolfsburg, but Wolfsburg were mediocre, so what can you even say for that? Is it his fault? McKinney was on a different level than a very bad team I forget the name. I don't even speak it anymore. I know it's shocking.
Okay, well, and he might be moving, right? I've seen rumors that he could be moving to the Prem.
If he goes to Everton, like it has been rumored, that would be huge for him, for U.S. soccer, and for, I mean, I would buy the jersey. I think,
and a yearly opportunity for him to finish mid-table. So.
Oh, that's big talk from a team that has how many points? 5 points through 4 games.
I think
it's been a slow restart, but it's a marathon, not a sprint.
I think the exciting thing is that we have many more years of soccer to watch these kids play. Like, yeah, Christian's not like the 17-year-old kid that he was when he first came onto the scene, but like
he's only 21 now and a world-class player.
But that's what I mean. Like, we have so many more years with him, and like realistically, probably a couple different men's national team coaches, right? The way we go through them. So I think that I think that we have a lot of Christian Pulisic playing for the men's national team to watch, and I think that will mean different positions at different times, like when the team needs it. And I think he'll rise to the occasion. I think maybe it isn't always going to be his very best game, but I think that he will always give it his all, and he will always be one of the best players on the field.
Boom roasted, said Sam to any present or future head coaches of the U.S. men's national team. We'll give Sam the last word there as we throw to break. We've got Rory Molleda and Sam Legg of DC United live from inside the bubble. They're going to join us coming up next here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Cast the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
And we should be back from break now. John, can you hear us? There we go. I think I got it. It's my first day with the audio and the mixer and the visual, trying a bunch of new things, just like the MLS back.
It's a version of preseason for all of us here on Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken. But we're happy to bring in Rory Molleda and Sam Legg live from the MLS bubble. Guys, welcome to the show. You both look well. How are things going so far?
Thanks for having us, first off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
I mean, for me, it's been great. Roy always does a great job at organizing things, so it's been smooth sailing for us. Been getting a lot of Xbox time in during the quarantine hours, and then everything else, just getting ready with training with the team, and just good to be back with everyone.
Yeah, it's been a good trip so far. There's a lot going on. It's kind of like a preseason on steroids. There's a lot that is not in our control because obviously it's kind of a league-wide thing. But yeah, it's going well so far. Just trying to get in the groove of being here and get to know the hotel and the training fields and all that. Those little nuances of being in a new place.
Yeah, so I think the most important question, are you guys in the Swan or the Dolphin?
Oh, I don't know if we can legally release that.
Did I throw you a curveball to start? We'll keep all of our listeners guessing.
We're in the better hotel. I'll just say that.
Only the best for the black and red. So before we get in too deep, Rory, you're a veteran here on Tried and True. You're actually tied with Paul Arriola and Kevin Paredes for the most guest appearances.
Nice.
And Sam, of course, has set up all of these guest appearances. But Sam, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your role with the club and what you do for DC United behind the scenes?
Yeah, I'm mostly there just so Ben Olsen has someone to yell at on a daily basis. But no, I do communications, media relations. So I've got a close ties with the players, and just on a daily basis, around games, at training, coordinating interviews with those guys, making sure their stories are told, and making sure that DC United's getting discussed in the media on a daily basis. So that's kind of the short story of it all.
No, that's awesome. And Rory, for our listeners who missed your first appearance on our show, can you give us a quick refresher on your role with the Black and Red?
Absolutely. I am the director of team administration, so I deal with all the logistics, all the travel, meals, flights, hotels, new player signings, assistant, goalkeeper, coach, part-time DJ.
I saw a mean left foot in a video.
What else we
the
got?
other day.
Duties that we got going on here.
Yeah, it looks like excellent shot taker. You had a pretty nice left-footed shot. It looks like on Twitter.
every once in a while I'll hit a good one.
Nice. Well, so, in your roles with DC United, I think fans kind of think of you all as probably working together a lot. Is that the case? How long have you all worked together? And how do your jobs intermingle?
Me and Rory do everything together. we work together. We live together. We're basically inseparable. But at least from my point, Rory kind of he's in charge of all the logistics for the players on a daily basis. So we're pretty close in terms of coordinating times, because everything kind of has to be in sync. So with Rory's help, I can make sure that I get the players for interviews at the best times and make sure we're organized on that front.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we work, obviously daily, close together all the time. And not only organizing that kind of stuff, but making sure all the Latino guys know what they're doing. And if I need to translate for those guys at any point for interviews, that's when we'll work together as well. So, it's just like Sam said, making sure we're in the news, we're talked about, and our players are our biggest asset there. So I'm happy to help coordinate their availabilities.
And I'm his assistant when needed, pretty much.
Yeah, when we were trying to get you guys lined up for the show, we talked to Zach, as you guys probably know Zach, and we tried to get some dirt on you guys, but he said the best way to get dirt on either of you guys is to ask the other. Any embarrassing, funny stories you got on each other, or anything crazy happened since you've been down in the bubble?
Since we've been in the bubble, I don't think so, right?
No, not in the bubble. It's only been 2-3 days.
I mean, we've been here, since Friday. What day is it? It's Sunday, right?
Yeah. Very quarantine answer. What day is it? Nobody.
No. I just know the number days. Like, we arrive on the 3rd, we play on the 10th, and then if it's a Sunday, a Friday, a Wednesday, who knows? But I don't know
My only tidbit is I heard a secret that Rooney actually left because he was tired of sharing some stuff. No one's heard that already.
They were tied on athletic articles by the end of his stint in DC, right?
Yeah.
I was a little easier to get a hold of, I feel like.
Well, Rory, last time you were on the show, we talked a lot about all of the different moving parts that go into making an away game happen. And, with this tournament being the unique experience that it is, can you talk a little bit about kind of how the preparations worked and how that's different from your normal traveling to an away game?
Yeah, it's totally different. It's just the complete opposite of traveling for an away game, but this is more like preseason just because we're away for so long. And it kind of is a preseason just to get the guys ready for this tournament, right? But everything is controlled by the league, basically. So they've set up, all the flights, the hotels. They did, we didn't pick this hotel, they picked it. So they're basically in control of everything. And I credit them a lot. We have a great MLS team operations department, and they're incredible and did a lot of the legwork for us, which has been great. That doesn't mean that there's no work to do. I still have to make sure we get down here and make sure who's going and where they're going to, what rooms they have and how our setup is going to look like. And I rely on the rest of our department, our equipment department, our athletic trainers to help me and figure out our preferences and that kind of stuff. So it's quite different, but like I said, they kind of did the framework for us, and then we just fill in the gaps. Training times, where do we want the bus here, when we need to leave, are we doing 2 sessions, 1 session, we go to the gym, all those things, they've lined up for us. Then we just pick, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. So it's been quite the last, I'd say, 3 weeks since we really knew, okay, this is happening, because the previous probably 4 to 6 weeks, it was okay, I think this is happening. There's rumors about this, right? We didn't really know. Nobody knew until we finally got that one email. Okay, we're having a meeting because Orlando's happening. So that was exciting. Obviously, as soon as it became official, it was great to plan it, and it got very busy. And I always knew, I might have said this before, but I always knew that when we started after this quarantine, it was going to go from 0 to 200 miles an hour. And that's exactly what happened.
I believe it. And I imagine there's an added element to that, trying to plan around all of the different health guidelines and procedures that the MLS has set up. How has been complying with that been?
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets it. Everybody understands it. And, everybody's following the rules here, wearing their masks, obviously except in our rooms. Is everywhere else you have to wear a mask and training for the players at least. So, because we've been doing it for the past 2-3 weeks at home, that kind of stuff, it makes it a little easier to transition to here. But things like eating, we always have a server behind a glass who serves our food for us. There's basically no other staff anywhere in the hotel, so that there's like a little contact between players and those people who are not in the bubble. So they've done, again, to MLS's credit, there's so much to think about there and so many little details to think about and kind of work out that they've thought of basically everything. And the things that they haven't thought of or thought through maybe as thoroughly, that'll get brought up by, us or the athletic trainer, stuff like that. And they work as quickly as they can to, fix those things. So it's been, a challenging, but it's the reality for everybody. It's not just us. All 26 teams are in the same boat. So just kind of have to deal with it, right? Make the best of it.
We are live with DC United's Sam Legg and Rory Molleda here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. If you've got questions for Sam or Rory, go ahead and send those in using the hashtag Tried and True DCU. Sam, from your perspective, what is your role then in this process of going down to Orlando? Have things changed a lot, of course, with player availability and how postgame and things like that are going to work? What does that look like from your point of view?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment, but it's kind of, this is kind of a continuation of the last 3-4 months. There's very limited media within the bubble itself, so it's pretty much limited to broadcast partners. So it's not necessarily facilitating in-person interviews, more so still setting up Zoom interviews, phone call interviews, and such. They also have like a media hub within the bubble, which is, you have to arrange that for match day -2. So you guys will receive invites in the next couple days about, talking to Ben, Ola Kamara, and Steven Birnbaum. So basically, it'll be a weird thing where they're doing a press conference, but they're in this fully lit room with like one person who's in charge of setting up the call and them just basically talking to a TV. So you've seen it kind of across the sports leagues, them kind of adjusting to that. But there's that, and then it's similar for post-game press conferences. So it'll be one small room where 3 players are talking to a TV. So it's been different. It's been a unique thing, and we're still kind of learning as each day passes. It's kind of fluid and changes here and there, but more of the same of what it's been the last 3 or 4 months. So just getting those guys on the phone, in front of the computer, whatever it is.
Yeah, sounds great. So before we move on to a little bit more about the team and the tournament, we do have some fan questions for you all. Some people did submit questions beforehand. So, obviously this is a crazy time. Is there one player in particular who's the funniest, who's been able to kind of lighten the mood, or even, just in the locker room in general? Is there one person in particular that stands out as being the goofball of the team?
I mean, I don't know. I think it kind of changes a little bit, but the 3 young kids, Moses, Kevin, and Griff, they're always a show. Whenever the 3 of them individually have all the personalities and they're all great guys, but when you get them together and they're in the locker room or training or whatever, it's always a show. It's always a show.
I mean, collectively, we're a really good bunch of guys. Like
we do, for sure.
They're all great. Like they all have really good chemistry. There's a ton of banter going on. I'm sure you saw on our Instagram story today, Fred running around, just doing silly things to lighten the mood. So everyone kind of has a part to play in it. So we try and keep things fun for the most part, and the players are great.
That's awesome. We have a couple Disney questions too. We have several of them actually. So I'll just kind of rapid fire them at you. But if you could be any Walt Disney World attraction, which would you be and why?
Oh, man.
What's questions just for Sam and Rory, or how's this work?
Oh, yeah, just for Sam and Rory.
Epcot, the one where you go and drink a lot at all the countries. I've never been there, but
Beers around the world, I like it.
there we go. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I'd be the Tower of Terror just because I'm tall, I guess.
Nice. So what is your favorite Disney movie?
Lion King,
Solid.
classic.
Just like Pixar, is Pixar Disney?
I'll allow it.
Disney aficionado. I'll go with Toy Story. How about Toy Story? That's
Classic,
a good one.
yeah.
Another solid, yeah. So I think you would have to have been there. But if you could eat one Disney snack for the rest of your life, which would it be?
Disney snack.
Harry Potter World has butterbeer, right?
I'll allow that.
But that's universal, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is.
Oh yeah.
That's a card, I think. Wait, what's a Disney snack though? Hold on.
So since I know the person that submitted the question, we're talking about like Mickey premium bars or like Mickey shaped pretzels or any of the things you can get in the parks or potentially at your hotel, depending on what the menus look like.
For butterbeer, apparently.
When my parents brought me to Disney, they didn't buy me anything. In fact, way too expensive for that.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've been down here.
That's funny. Well, hopefully you all will get. Maybe they'll give you some Disney.
All right, we'll come back to that
food.
and let you know.
Yeah.
We'll follow up in a couple weeks.
All right, so just a couple more. Who is your favorite Disney character?
Wally.
See, I feel like I'm selling the spot here.
Yeah.
I'll be the Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay. Awesome. And then potentially the same, potentially different, but our last question is, if you could have any character as your avatar on Disney Plus, which would it be?
I feel like it's generally the same, right?
I mean, you could go different.
Lilo.
Yeah.
All right, Stitch.
I love it.
All right, shifting more back to DC United things because we went on a tangent there. But thank you, fans, for the questions. What is the general?
Yeah, thank you, guys.
What's the mood around the team being in the bubble and about the tournament as a whole? We've gotten to talk to a few players, but what's the general sense amongst the crew?
I mean, I think that just like anybody, there are some guys that are certainly on the back, in the back of their head concerned about the health risks and the few positive cases that have been coming up. But overall, I think the guys are excited. They've been excited to come back to train the last 2 weeks at Audi, and they're excited to play soccer again. You can see it, in those videos that Sam was talking about on Instagram and on Twitter. They're having fun. They're having fun on the field, and we're excited to get back to work. So that's how I feel. That's how some of the guys that I've talked to feel. So
Yeah, they seem hungry. They seem hungry just to get back at it, be on the field playing. So, like Rory said, yeah, there's a little bit of apprehension, but I think for the most part, the guys are just eager to get the season back underway.
We'd love to hear it, and that's been a common theme we've heard from the players we've talked to on the show. They're all excited and ready to get back out there and have the opportunity to win some kind of trophy and represent the black and red. For the players, are they able to interact with people on other teams, or are y'all pretty much siloed within your own organizations within the complex down there?
yeah, I mean, you're not really allowed to go onto anybody's floor or like go play PlayStation or something with another team, but there's a lot of outdoor games and spaces and stuff like that they can socially distant hang out. Obviously, if you're just walking around the grounds, you can hang out too. So the social distance, masks, all that stuff is being reminded constantly, and there's signs everywhere about it. So we talk about it, and as I said before, everybody's used to those rules and following them pretty good. So they can. It's just a matter of being safe about it. And that's been the best part for me.
Yeah.
So for the first time in what feels like a decade, DC United have a real live match this coming Friday against Toronto. So what does the schedule look like for the players, kind of leading up to that? And does that differ much from what a typical match day would be like, or, match week would be like in the district? Or how does it differ from what the team would be used to under normal circumstances?
I think the only thing different is just like when we train and kind of how we do that. So like I said, this is much more akin to a preseason where we're having to go somewhere, train, you come back to the hotel, we eat all together, right? So that's, I think, more the mindset than a regular, okay, we fly to Toronto, play this game, and then come back. So it's pretty, I don't know, it'll be a pretty normal week, pretty normal build up to the game on Friday night. Just the times, 8 o'clock is not too late, but our last game is at 10:30, so that's going to be certainly an adjustment for the guys.
Yeah, I think we lucked out and we didn't have any of those early 9 a.m. games because that
I
probably
know.
would have been an adjustment. So have you all been to like the practice fields, the fields where the games are? If so, how do those fields look?
Pretty great to me. I
Yeah.
got a chance to round the ball there with the team yesterday. It's great fields, great facilities. Good memories from playing there back in the day. But I haven't seen a stadium field, but I'm assuming it'll be more the same. They seem like they're kept up really well.
Yeah, they take care of those fields pretty well. So, it's just the first couple of days. So we'll see how. Hopefully they hold out, and hopefully they continue to be taken care of properly. But there's gonna be a lot of soccer the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we've heard some, I don't want to say rumors, but I think directly from Dan Garber himself, or Don Garber, that there's going to be some new viewing experiments for the watchers. Do you guys have any insights on that? What should we expect? We don't even really have a full broadcaster schedule. What should we as the fan be expecting? Do we get Bill Hamid mic'd up, or are you guys working on that?
I haven't had that request float by me yet, but I haven't heard anything. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try and make it as interactive as possible, but at this point, I mean, just from my side, I haven't heard anything too in-depth about that. Maybe we can get Rory with a body cam or something like that, and you can watch from the sidelines.
As I'm like holding up the subboard. Yeah, from what I hear, I haven't seen any visuals themselves, but from what I hear from my league contacts, it's very cool and very interactive and very new. And nothing like what we've seen so far in terms of sports that have come back. So I don't know what that means, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see it, when we get to watch the first game on Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, I will be checking Disney Plus for the Rory body cam sideline view, though.
Sam?
I'll put it out.
Yeah, if my phone hadn't died right before the show, I'd be putting the Bill Hamid body cam or mic'd up request in. Since if all I got to do is run at my Sam, that's easy. Hey, we have a fan question here, and it's something we've touched upon on the show a little bit before, and I wonder a bit if it's different now that the whole team's back together again in close living quarters for the first time in a while. But our friend James from the UK would like to know, who is truly the best at FIFA on this team?
We figured
I don't
that
think
out.
there's any question about that.
Yeah.
I think we know, but we only had one player in the tournament. So is it truly Kevin Paredes, or is there a dark horse out?
It's no doubt Kevin.
Yeah.
I'll put all my money on Kevin every single day of the week.
I know I think Yamil's pretty good, actually, and I think they've gone head-to-head a couple times, but I always have seen it in the locker room, them playing. But, Kevin, I think, wins it, 2-3 times out of 5, right?
Are you going to ask who's better between me and Rory, or?
Oh, we definitely need to know that.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to tell us.
Rory, what do you think?
Yeah. I'm going to next question, please. The connection's breaking up. Something's going on.
I think if there was less lag, I might have taken down Sam in the tournament, but it was a little tough. We'll see.
Yeah. There we go.
We'll have to just convince Rory to get in the next one. Maybe as the tournament goes on, we'll get you all live on Twitter.
It's weird.
We'll
I never got an invite from that. So
we heard it's because you have a PlayStation. We'll have to do the next one on PlayStation.
There's plenty of PlayStation players.
Sounds like we got a challenge moving forward. Yeah, Sam, you talked a little bit about earlier about how media is going to look like in the days leading up to the game. Do you have anything more to share on what DC United is going to be doing around the game itself? Obviously, I know lots of fans will be tuning in to Tried and True as the go-to post-game show, but what other things is DC United doing media-wise for the actual game?
Yeah, I mean, we've got Javi, who's our super talented photographer down here. We've got Claudia, who's also down here, and she's great. So, it'll be different. I'm not sure necessarily what they have planned, but I know they have a ton of fun content. Trying to keep up with the guys on a daily basis. Interviews around that. She'll have a chance to do some sideline reporting while she's there. But in terms of anything unique, I guess you'll just have to tune in and find out.
All right. We'll be watching with interest. And obviously Tried and True will be live after every game, so we'll be ready and willing to break it down.
That'll be great.
Yeah, so this has been, a great conversation about soccer and the team and you two. But, obviously there's more to life than soccer, and it's great to see DC United stepping up a little bit. And, showing that they're here for the community, they're here for their players, their staff. So Rory, we just wanted to ask you what it was like to host one of the critical conversations. There have been 2 of them, but specifically you spoke on the sexual orientation and gender one. So what was that like for you?
We good?
Oh no, I'm back.
Oh,
Okay. Did you hear the full question?
Okay, sorry. Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. It was, I can't thank Sam and Zach and our digital team, everybody who put that together, thank them enough for letting me be a part of that experience. Just because it meant a lot for me to have the club do something like that. Even the one that I was not a part of, the critical conversation on, racial injustice and inequality. That was awesome to listen to, and it was cool because they all knew each other, right? So it was a cool vibe and really interesting to hear all their perspectives. For us, I think it was, again, it was really cool, and it was a interesting conversation for me to be a part of, just to listen to those other perspectives and other experiences. But it was just another, for me,
The Disney Wi-Fi appears to be defeating us a little bit here.
No.
All right, Rory, that sounds
It's
like
like every 20 minutes it cuts out. Sorry.
No, all good.
I'm back. Okay. I don't know where I cut off.
Welcome to the bubble.
I guess if you just have any final thoughts about, what the team's been doing, just broadly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have made it clear that it's not just a one-time thing where we paint the field and take a picture and that's that, right? Obviously wearing a t-shirt is not the end of anybody's problems either, right? It's continuing to have conversations, and we've had a lot of them in the team, between coaches and players, between the whole team, individual players themselves. Like, there's been a lot of education and a lot of conversations and a lot of questions that have come out of it. Just in general, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Black experience, obviously I can't speak to any of that stuff, but I've overheard and listened to a lot of those conversations, which has been really enlightening and really educational for me, those players, those coaches. So that's what means a lot to me, for the club to be a leader on that side of it. And we'll continue to do so.
Yeah,
I mean,
go.
I would just say, for what it's worth, I mean, I think the 4 of us are obviously huge sports fans. I follow a lot of teams in a lot of different sports, and I can tell you that none of my teams have come close to what DC United has done in the past couple months, and it just makes it, even more special to be a fan of this club. So thank you to you guys and your coworkers for everything you've done over the past few months.
Yeah, Sam, did you have anything to add? I know you weren't a part of that conversation, but obviously you've been a part of some of the behind closed doors conversations.
Yeah, I think as a sports organization with such a large platform, I think we kind of owe it to our fans, owe it to the people of the city to use our platform to bring attention to these things. And Rory's a person who's extremely eloquent and knows how to bring awareness and talk about issues openly, and I think that's great. And I think all the work that we've done for Black Lives Matter is a small step, but I think we as DC United have a platform to tell those stories. And like Rory said, I can't speak on the issues with injustice and such, but I think right now is all about listening to other people and educating yourself and doing our best to support them. So I'm really happy, and it's a huge credit to Zach coming in as director of comms. Me and him have had conversations, and we're like, we have an opportunity here to bring attention to things and bring light to things. So we're just happy to just provide our small amount of support and hopefully push it forward.
I will say too, after this conversation that I led, the critical conversation, for me in the moment, it was just kind of another conversation that I was having with 2 or 3 other members of the LGBTQ community. But I got a lot of response that I kind of didn't expect. Whether, even coaches, I had 2 assistant coaches talk to me, hey, and we've had multiple conversations since, even just before I walked in the door to join you guys. Hey, I thought about something that was said there. Can we discuss that real quick? So things like that are making people think differently mean a lot, but also show that these conversations are important, that they really educate people and give them a different perspective. So whether it's about LGBTQ rights, Black Lives Matter, and the Black experience in the United States, it's super important to, as Sam said, just in this moment, listen and learn more. So with our platform, I'm really glad that we're helping people to do that.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all the insight that y'all provided on that. And I know there are several folks who are eagerly awaiting the opportunity to buy some of the merchandise that y'all have been wearing around. So whenever we have the opportunity to do that, please let us know. Our last question is kind of a wrap up, and it's something that we share with all of the players and people who've been on. So Rory, you're off the hook. Last time you gave us a great answer talking about your love for the DC United Pride numbers and gear that they put on the put out there on the shop. But for Sam, we'll ask you to choose what is your favorite part of DC United gear, or if you'd like, you can try to give us a pitch for why we should put your name on the back of one of our jerseys.
Oh, there's a large world of Legg-related puns, so I could rattle off why it's important to have Legg on the back of the jersey. Favorite thing about the gear, it's black, so it's slimming for the most part. I've got so much gear at this point. No, I just think the best part of the gear is wearing the crest, getting to wear it on a daily basis. I have so much of it at this point. But for last name pitch on the back of the jersey, I try and do the legwork behind the scenes. That's a good point.
And Legg's final appearance on Tried and True now.
I do believe that is the first pun-related pitch.
Never needs a super sub. I'll bring on the fresh leg from the bench. So that's what I'm going to do for.
Well said. Well, listen, guys, you spent the last half hour with us, and we really, really appreciate it. We're so excited to get some insight from inside the bubble. Before we let you go, I just got to thank both of you guys and the entire team for unveiling the Supporter Content Creator Network this week, which Tried and True is proud to be a founding member of, and we look forward to how that continues to grow, and we continue to promote our brother and sister podcasts here in the DC United community. It's been awesome, and we really appreciate the access and the time you guys have given us to help share with the Black and Red community all we can about DC United, and especially in this super exciting time as we look to reclaim our reign and win the inaugural MLS's back tournament.
No, we got to thank you guys. You guys do a great job, and you guys are pretty relentless in your support for us. So we really appreciate it. I know it's not always easy dealing with me. You got to be patient at times, but no, we really appreciate it. And hopefully this is just the first step forward.
No, absolutely, and same for you, Sam. I know I'm fairly relentless in trying to line up guests for the show, so we appreciate all the support from you guys. It's a mega episode tonight, so we're going to throw it to break. We've been teasing it the entire show, but when we come back, we got to break down real live DC United soccer coming this Friday. We'll talk about what the game against Toronto FC will look like, and we'll try to get you to join the Tried and True Bracket Challenge on MLSsoccer.com right here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
And we're back.
Welcome back to the show here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And we do have a little bit of a stat correction to make. Thanks to Rory for letting us know that the Guard of Honor also happens in Spain, which is good to know because Real Madrid should be experiencing that as champions here in just a couple of weeks, guys. So that's exciting. And as we see Barcelona kind of fizzle out here at the end of the year, looking forward to the La Liga trophy going back to where it belongs.
Both the English and the Spanish have silly traditions in soccer for their champions.
Sam is unamused by the entire thing.
I think it's silly.
It just called me bored with the same two teams winning the league every single year.
Luckily, I mean, that's not the case in MLS, so.
At least in theory, we're headed back to the right team here in La Liga soon. But we talked about it a bit before the break, and we've got something cool interactive with you, our listeners, again. The MLS Soccer Bracket Challenge is for the entire MLS is Back tournament. And Joshua, you created a group here for the Tried and True community. And we've already gone in and entered our picks for this. It's interesting. It caught me a little bit off guard. I was ready to just run down the picks kind of like we talked to on the show a couple weeks ago. But you've also got to pick the wild card teams. And, boy, that was a challenge. I wasn't quite ready for that.
It's tough. I think I've changed mine like 2 or 3 times already because I read a bit of news and like, oh, well, this changes that group entirely. And I know Black said earlier, he was just like, I'm just looking at the team's caliber. I'm not trying to go into that rabbit hole of the dynamics in the group. But yeah, it's a fun thing. We got it up. We'll post and tweet out the link to our bracket. We set up a combined Tried and True DCU bracket. So like, we work together a little bit, and then each of us would put individual ones. We got some people that are not a part of our show in there already. We can't wait for you guys to join. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll see who knows the most about MLS's back, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can like say this is like how much you know about MLS because this is just a very different tournament, but it's fun, and I can't wait to brag against all you guys when I beat you.
Yeah, and it's a super easy format. I mean, I'm not excited for that. You totally caught me off guard with that little brag. Disagree.
I'm just gonna lay
Disagree.
Right now.
Oh, Sam, I know you're not talking. I saw your picks. Chicago Fire. What?
Listen, I specifically said that I was gonna have to go back and like look at all the thing, whatever. Anyone can go in and see them. But what I was going to say is that I hope everyone joins. It's really, really easy if you've ever done like. The MLS, just like the general bracket for postseason, it's very similar. And you only have to make one, and then you can join whatever communities you want to join. So you're automatically included in this overall one. Based on my settings, I was automatically put into the DC United one. So I'm competing against everyone else who has chosen DC United as their favorite team. And then I'm obviously in the tried and true one. And it's one bracket for every single one of them. So very easy. And I hope everyone kind of joins in with us for bragging rights and the ability to just, tell Joshua that you beat him, because I think he needs to be taken down a peg sometimes.
I mean, the only person in the tried and true universe that could beat me at FIFA is the best player on the team, as reported by Rory and Sam just now. I think I fit in there between him and Assad.
Okay, so our new King Joshua is now the supreme ruler of all tried and true.
And given the way that the MLS FIFA tournaments have gone down, I think we're just as fine that DC United gets to settle it on the field and not on the sticks for Xbox or PlayStation. No, it's a great opportunity to find a way to get more excited about some of the other games. I know almost all of us will be sitting and watching with bated breath for all of the games because MLS is back and it's a chance to watch. But if you need a little bit extra encouragement, you have a chance to tune in and say, hey, this is why I'm going to root for this team. It's very easy to fill out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and exactly like you said, it kind of gets your mind into as what I do when I play fantasy. Fantasy football gets me into the NFL more, and I sometimes try to play fantasy MLS, but it gets me more into the teams. I was looking at the bracket and I was like thinking about the dynamics of Toronto and how they're injury prone, and that just makes you more invested in all the games, but also you have a little bit of a desire to learn more about those players. It's fun.
And it's very different from doing a fantasy league where you're choosing players and you're trying to build something week in, week out. That's one of the exciting things about this tournament is that you got 3 games to advance, and then it's going to be a knockout. It's a different beast. So I think we're all ready to watch DC United coming up this Friday night versus Toronto.
I was about to say, speaking of, we have an actual game to talk about. We have an actual upcoming DC United game to preview right now.
I am so excited to hear you guys' analysis of this team and of Toronto without seeing them for so long.
I mean, I think I said that to you guys in the group chat earlier today of like, I'm so excited for the show. I'm so excited to talk to Rory and Sam. I don't remember how to preview a game. It's been so long. But you guys did some legwork, and Toronto, they tied San Jose 2-2 in the first game of the season, and they beat New York City FC 1-0. They were the Eastern Conference, the MLS, Eastern Conference champions, MLS Cup runners-up, and of course, DC United fans will remember that they knocked us out of the playoffs last year. So this is a team that it was interesting. I heard Julian Gressel's interview on Filibuster earlier this week, and he's just as hungry to beat this team as well because they knocked out Atlanta last year in the playoffs too. So I think there's a lot of players in the black and red that are excited to see Toronto. You talk a little bit about strategy in the tournament, and really in these like World Cup style group stage tournaments, you want to have a winnable game to start, get off on the right leg. DC United decidedly do not have an easy game to start this. There's really no way around it. But if they can get a draw or if they can get a win against this Toronto team, they're going to be flying high to really start the group. And you know what? Toronto, as we talked about earlier, they haven't even showed up in Orlando yet. So you can talk about if that's potentially an advantage for them because they're staying in their home market. But I don't know, man. Conditions are different in the bubble. And so getting down there and getting used to things, I think all of these first games for teams, as we've talked about before, are going to be tough. But, it's so exciting to have a game. But I don't even know where to start to break this down. What are your guys' thoughts? What do you expect from Toronto?
I mean, we had 15 weeks of not watching soccer or watching international soccer to see how these leagues are coming back. And every single time it started out rough, except for the NWSL, which is, I would say they're on their own different planes because they only have 8 teams, and most of them are international superstars at their level. But with this one, I'm glad that Toronto and DC United are playing first. Like you mentioned, it's a good that's going to be the toughest game in their group, hands down. I don't think the Revs or I can't even Montreal. Yeah, I almost forgot about them because that's how they are in MLS. You forget about them. I feel like I'd rather face Toronto when they're rusty, when they just got off the plane a couple of days ago, if they show up at all, and then then you know where you stand for the last 2 games. You know if you need those 6 points or if you can rest some guys and get them used to. Toronto are a beast, and I'm glad we're playing them first because we might have an advantage because of that.
Well, and you wonder too about the delay getting down to Orlando. We talked about when the schedule first came out this year that DC United might stay and play Orlando and Miami over the course of a week. It's a different environment playing in Florida than it is in Toronto. It's still in the 80s up there, but the South Florida oppressive humidity is another beast entirely. And the longer that Toronto waits to come down and get into it and train in it, especially if you're talking about playing a competitive game for the first time in a couple of months, I do think that that's going to be a rude awakening for them.
I think it's interesting, and I think it's going to be just interesting to see how Toronto do come out in this first game because Vanny in a press conference when he was talking about how Toronto had to push back their flight 2 days in a row, he kind of said, I don't think this tournament is worth it. You're putting players' health at risk. So I think it's hard to kind of give it your all and try to win a tournament when your coach is saying that it's not worth it publicly. I'm sure he's saying that in the locker room. But Toronto is also a team that always comes out and tries to win, and they try to be one of the powerhouses of MLS, and we've never really seen that from them, but they like to, I think that they are that. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll straight up disagree with you. They were terrible for their first few years, and then they were a powerhouse. They were just voted, maybe incorrectly, the best team in MLS ever.
That's false.
The 2017 team with Giovinco
That's
and Altidore
false.
and Bradley, maybe.
It was a good team, but I wouldn't say that was the best team in MLS
It's not
ever. And I also don't think
closest to Conca champs we've ever had.
I also don't think that they're a dynasty. When you think about the powerhouse teams in MLS, I don't think you think about Toronto because they also kind of flail.
How many?
And they fall short frequently at the top.
More MLS Cups in the past few years than DC United has won playoff
I'm not comparing
games.
them to DC United right now. I'm just saying that in general, I think that they think about themselves more highly than everyone else does because they're also very injury prone, and that I think is a reason that it comes up short. But that just kind of shows that they don't have a really deep bench.
Well, and that 2017 team set a points record for the regular season, so sure they were great, but that points record's been broken the next 2 years. It's hard for me to say that that's
because there's 47 teams in the league now.
You're still playing the same number of games.
Look, I don't necessarily agree that they were the greatest team ever, but that team is still somewhat together. They have the talent. It'll be interesting whether DC United come out flying or not, because if it's just talent versus talent, Toronto win. They do have the injury to Achara, who was the difference maker in their first 2 games. He unfortunately tore his ACL. He was an electric player straight out of the draft. A lot of fun. So they'll have to work through that. And they're just coming back. Bradley's just coming back from an injury, and Josie is Josie, and so maybe they look like the toughest team in the group, and they're an easy win. I don't know.
Well, and DC United has a history of playing Toronto well. You've seen some barn burners games against them, games that, frankly, the last year we didn't really expect to win that game going up on a midweek, and somehow come out with a tie, I believe. So it's a team that we can get results against. Obviously, when it mattered down the stretch, we had our hearts broken in overtime playoffs last year. But for a group game, first game back, perhaps the DC United approach was going to yield benefits there because they're always well disciplined. They're always there ready to grind out a game, and if that's what you're going to need to do in this tournament, then you're in a good position to do it.
I think that's an interesting point. DC United's very used to grinding games out, and that's what we've seen the first couple games for other leagues have to do, right? It's just kind of grinding out a result. That's kind of how we play all the time, but we also don't have the best postseason tournament style history in recent history, right? We haven't always made it as far as we would have liked, and as far as our potential could have taken us. So those two things colliding, obviously I hope we go far, but it'll just see how those things mesh together. I think this whole tournament is just crazy, and we're just going to learn a lot as we go.
Go ahead, Joshua, please.
I think it's really interesting for DC United. Like you guys said, we're normally the team that grinds out results, but for brief periods, Ben Olsen has been able to get this attack electric. Patrick Mullins exploded for a little bit. Lucha Root, we'll never forget. Even towards I think it was the middle of last year, the second half of last year, we started to pick up results and stuff like that. But
killed Seattle.
So does Ben Olsen figure it out for this tournament, and DC United just go and just like slay people? I mean, we don't have the problems we were worried about at the beginning of the season. Assad is probably fully fit now,
or at least, fit as everyone else.
At least as fit as everyone else, because they haven't been playing soccer either. We got Pipa has been playing with the team for a while. I'm really excited for him. I just re-listened to our last episode.
Dude is hungry.
The other days, he's so hungry. And he's done it in this league, and he's acting like he hasn't. That's the quote that stuck with me, is that he felt like he was 17 again. And can I be that player again? And man, if he's even able to come close, DC United will be in a different tier.
It feels like a super sub, right? I mean, let's assume that he doesn't make the starting lineup, and we could be wrong. He may, but just having a guy like that. And we talked about it a bit after his interview a couple weeks ago, but like having a guy like that for the young kids on this team who we've really come to know and love to learn from, but also to either be out there on the field, leading the team, or to come in a tough situation, especially let's say it's the third game and we need a win to move on to the next round, and you bring a guy like that off the bench, just the change he could bring to the game, and it's so exciting. But I want to play a little game with you guys here, because I've had to dig into the archives. It's been so long since the last time we've done this. Do you guys remember the date of the last DC United game that we saw live in person?
Well, I wasn't there. It was
You were not there.
It was March 8th or 9th.
March 10th.
March 7th is the date line I'm showing here. But, to look back at that, and it was a crazy game. It was absolutely nuts. Inter Miami had scored before we even got to the stands. We just got into the stadium. We saw it from field level before we walked up into the supporter section. And DC United, of course, got the equalizer on a wild
deserved.
Miami could have been up 2-0. It was a red card. It was a penalty given. Assad hit the penalty. And then 2 minutes later, Frederick Briand rocket to win the game in the 61st minute. But, you guys had asked, what do we think the lineups are going to look like for this game? Fascinating to look back. It was a 4-3-3 for DC United in that game. It was Russell Canals starting at the outside back, Briand Birnbaum, Mora, who was, of course, replaced by O'Neal Fisher in the second half when Mora got hurt. So I talk about fitness, talk about players being healthy. I assume Joseph Mora is healthy by now, but I don't know that we've heard for sure. So it'll be interesting to see if he cracks the lineup again. Gressel was playing more central in this game, if I recall correctly, with both Flores and Yamil out wide. Yamil came off Chris Duriachim late in the game as we tried to cement the win, and Ola Kamara actually got hurt early in the game, if you guys recall, and Eric Sorga played a number of minutes there, coming on 15th minute. So as we talk about lineups for this game, do you guys expect any surprises out of the gate, or do you think Benny will go with something similar to what we saw, what feels like years ago, but back in March?
I think for me, I expect it to look fairly similar to what we saw in that game. I do appreciate you running back through those injuries, because at that point we were very concerned about what our attack was going to look like, and frankly, I'm still concerned. Our force up top is Ola, and then you have Sorga and some other guys that can fill in.
Don't forget Peppa.
Yeah, he's ready to go up there.
He says he doesn't score the goals. He connects.
He does
the
score
passes.
the goals, though.
He said he
I'm
likes,
fine if he says he doesn't, but he does. So
Goals
I'm excited
happen
for that.
when he's in the lineup, whether or not he puts them in or assists. Go ahead, Black.
Yeah, but when you talk about injuries, and we were looking at potentially some major holes having to fill before, obviously, the season took a very drastic turn, and obviously we're hoping that we don't have to deal with issues like that. But if we have similar issues pop up in the first one or two games, it's going to be a shorter run for DC United. Unfortunately, we're just not a team that is deep enough that you can rely on the bench to carry you through, especially in a knockout kind of setting like we've got here.
My prediction is that Pipo will get more than 120 minutes. I think he might even start.
Per game or throughout the group stage?
Throughout the group stage. I mean, obviously, come on. But I think he gets more than the 30 minutes at the end of the game. I think you, in a short time period, in a weird circumstance, you played the almost MLS legend, right? That we have for $100,000. I don't. Flores can play on the left, and that means it's Yamil or Higuain. And man, I haven't seen Yamil in a long time, but I have seen Higuain, and he can play at a different level.
I think another factor to this is how substitutions will be used, right? So like Ben is pretty, famously known among the fans for not putting in subs when potentially we really need them, and now we have 5 subs at our disposal. So, we were talking about, how deep is our bench, like who do you bring in, but, is he going to utilize those subs? Because if he doesn't and he kind of runs the starters into the ground the first 3 games, like I don't know what that would mean for us going forward. Like I think he has to. I've always said that he has to sub more than he does, though, and he hasn't. So, but I think that will be definitely a factor, is how coaches utilize those subs.
And I think this is one of the most versatile DC United teams we've had in a while. Gressel can play right back, right mid, right wing, center attacking mid, because that's what he did in the Miami game. And then you have Yamil, who can play in the center, but he plays on the left. And Flores, like I said, plays on the left, but can play in the center. And then Kamara, does he play as one striker, or do we put Sorga up there with him? I feel like Ben has the options here. He's had his team with him for a while now. I hope that he utilizes them in a very smart way, because that will be a bigger difference in these matches. We've seen it in the other leagues, and I hope that Ben is able to make those adjustments and win games. Everyone disagrees.
Yeah, like I said, I think we're going to see a team that's very similar to what we saw earlier this season. I think Ben's going to have them ready with a game plan. Toronto's a familiar team. It's a team that has had a lot of success, and we don't quite know what kind of personnel is going to be there for Toronto. But at the end of the day, DC United is going to focus on executing their game plan and hopefully come out with victory.
3 points.
Guys, as I said to start the show, Major League Soccer is back. The MLS is back tournament kicks off for real Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Orlando play Inter Miami Club de Football at 8 p.m., followed up by Nashville and Chicago. If that one stays on track based on COVID-19 testing, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for all of the players and staff that are in Orlando. Of interest to us in the Eastern Conference, continuing, New York City FC and Philadelphia have the first early morning game. That's Thursday at 9 a.m. And thank God DC United dodged those games.
You're still going to watch it, though. You're still
of course. But, it's I'll be rubbing my eyes instead of sitting right in front of my TV, right? But the other action in DC United's group, Thursday night at 8 p.m., the Impact take on New England before Friday. The main event, at least for our audience, Toronto FC taking on the Black and Red at 8 p.m. I believe this game's on ESPN. Does that sound right? To kick it off. But either way, we'll be coming at you guys with our game picks pregame through Instagram on on Friday, and of course we'll be live postgame. It's been so long, I can't wait. But we'll be live postgame again right after the game to break everything down. We'll see what sort of questions we can get to the team, and we'll look ahead to DC United's next match as we progress through the MLS's back tournament. Closing thoughts, guys.
Vamos United.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this new fan experience is going to be. I'm fully expecting. It's interesting. Sam said he hadn't gotten the request, but I'm fully expecting mic'd up players like they did in the All-Star game. Yeah, when Zimmerman went in for a tackle and got a foul, and the announcers in his ear were like, "I didn't think that was a foul either," and he's laughing on the field. That's what I fully expect. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I agree. I do want the players to take it seriously. I don't want it to be quite at the level of an all-star game, but soccer is back in the United States. We're rooting for the Spirit tonight, and we'll be rooting hard for DC United Friday night, and we'll come to you live after the show, ready to break down what is hopefully a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're listening to this show on the podcast as we wrap up here, we'd encourage you to check us out on Twitter Live or on YouTube Live this Friday. We debuted video today. We hope that it went as well as we think, and we got some kinks probably to work out, but we'll continue to work on that. And of course, join the tried and true bracket challenge, the Pick'em League. I tweeted that link out. So if you've created a bracket, it's real easy to just join the Tried and True group, or if you haven't yet, you can just hit the link from our Twitter page and see if you can take down Joshua Morgan, who thinks he's got this in the bag already. But I don't know. I think we can take him. But we're looking forward to talking to you guys live after each and every group stage game for DC United, and hopefully long into the knockout stages. We'll see if we can bring back the call-in line, and we'll do this thing like a real live post-game show again right here coming up this Friday on Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken.